Hello, this is episode 2 of our as of yet unnamed podcast. This episode's not going to be as good because it's not about me.
People's guaranteed to see these films, though. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that.
Mate, everyone's seen Back to the Future.
Well, Robert didn't talk about it last year, so
2 years.
He's an outlier.
2 years.
He's an outlier of humanity in a few ways. And anyway, this is episode 2. Episode 1 was my top 5 favourite films. This episode is going to be Brandon's top 5 favourite films. You may be asking, why do we give a shit about your top 5 favourite films? I don't know. I can't tell you that.
It's just a little
It's just a
perspective on
it's a
who
good
we
little
are.
intro. It's a nice. It's instead of introducing ourselves in a really cringy way, we're doing it over 2 hours, and talking about 5 films, but actually like 25 films. I reckon this one's probably going to be more concise, not just in length, but also. I don't think there'll be as many. There will be digressions, but I don't think there will be as much digression as there will in the first
We'll
one.
just see how it goes.
So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, enough rambling. So I think we'll just get straight into it because we've been doing this a couple hours already.
All right.
And I am going hoarse. Anyway, Brandon's list, top 5. On you, Brandon.
Okay.
Take
right.
the floor.
So I'll start with number 5. It took me a little while because I've got a whole list. I've got about 20 films, and the 5th one, and my top 4, I was kind of set on. The 5th one was really hard to pick. Like okay, what's going to be in the top 5? Because like I love films. I love typical films like Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones and stuff. But most of my top 5 is like that. So I didn't want to just bag more obvious ones. But at the same time, I wanted to be honest. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we're kind of going for.
Of course.
So this film came around when I was kind of getting back into films like properly. So around 2017-18, just as we finished school, because that's kind of when I decided that I wanted to get into film for work as a career. So I started to try and watch more like good like films that are considered like Oscars or Academy Awards and stuff like that. You know, like
I think if you're gonna discuss that, maybe you should give a little background on what you intend to do, sort of thing, as well.
Well, I'm currently trying to get into screenwriting. Been working on that for years now. That's kind of taken a side. It's kind of on the side right now because we're working on another project, which I don't want to get into right now. But
I've read it.
Definitely
It's a novel. Just say that it's a novel and it's good.
It's a novel.
I've read
It's
some
a novel.
of it. It's good.
So I've been trying to watch like better films rather than the typical like Marvel or whatever. Even though I still love those type of films, but so this film came around during a time that I was kind of looking for like different like more real films, and when I had my limitless account at Odeon, so I could just pop in anytime. And this film really stood out because me and my family never agree on films or what we like. We always like my family typically like just easygoing films, easy to watch films. I like the sort of in-depth
Hardcore
analysis
sexual
ones.
ones.
Unless again, it's like unless it's a happy, oh yeah, unless it's a happy like Marvel film or Star Wars or whatever. I love those films too. I kind of like every type of film. It's only really romance that I don't like. But funnily enough, this one has a lot of romance. It's called A Star Is Born with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. So yeah, so this came around 2018. I think it was Lady Gaga's like not her first role, but her first big like feature role in a film, I believe, where she's like the main character. Yeah, freaking love this film. Freaking gets my heartstrings constantly. I don't think have you seen it, Ryan? I don't think you have.
I haven't. Yeah, I know all of it. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
That's fine. So I don't want to go too in depth with spoilers.
Just go to it.
Just cause.
Just do it.
No, but like I still want to like just in case you do watch it.
I'll just clock out. Don't worry. I'll just I'll check out. You can just talk about it whatever you want.
So yeah. So I'm not typically a musical kind of guy. I know it's not really a musical film. There's music in it, but it's not a musical. I kind of see them differently. Like Les Mis, like that's a musical. This isn't a musical, but it's got music in it. It's more performances. I'm not even a typical Lady Gaga fan. I do like her music, but I'm not like diehard. But she is phenomenal in this film. So is Bradley Cooper, who's not typically a singer, but he freaking does great in a sort of country styled uh, music for him. Yeah, freaking pulls your heartstrings throughout the whole film. Especially Bradley Cooper's character, who deals with like drink and drugs and addiction and all that, and he kind of has to deal with the idea that he brought into this girl into the world that he is famous for, and she kind of, you know, overtakes him in fame, and he has to kind of deal with that. He's not used to that. He's used to being the sort of main show, but you don't hate him at all, even though he's got all these flaws. You never hate him, or you never like, oh, why do you feel sorry for yourself? Like, just get over it, mate. Like you do, really feel sympathy towards him.
It's a
But yeah, the
remake as
music,
well, right?
lovely music. It's a remake of a remake of a remake. I think there's like
Oh,
four
really?
of these films. Yeah, there's one that was well known. I think it's, oh, what's her name? Barbara Streisand. She's in it.
Right.
She's in one. Is that her name? Yeah, yeah. I think it's her. I think she was in one before this, but yeah, it was a long time ago. But it's not like it's not a typical remake. It's more of just like loosely adapted, I believe. I've not seen the originals, but I believe they're very different.
They all have
It's
this. They all have the same ending, though. I
oh, do
believe.
they? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I believe so.
I'm taking role of fact checker this one. Judy Garland was in the 1954 version, so that's like
Oof.
Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland.
Oh, right, right, right. Oh,
And 1976 was the Barbara Streisand one, yeah.
oh, so there's two. There's two ones to
Well,
go.
there's an even earlier one as well, 1951, but that was a television one.
Oh, all right, I see. I see. But yeah, no, I loved the film. I recommended it to Robert right away because I was like, I feel like you're gonna kind of like this. I'm not sure, but if you like the music, but
Dave
everything else,
Chappelle's in this
it's like,
film. What?
Yeah, man.
yeah,
Yeah, he's great in it.
I'm gonna go watch it tomorrow.
perfect. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think maybe a favorite moment besides the ending because it's just freaking so sad. It is a film that it is a sad film. There's not a lot of hope at the end or happiness. Maybe acceptance, but
I think for me, my favorite scene in the film is when um he gets, is it he punches a random guy. He like punches a guy at a bar, and then he hurts his hand, and then they're like just looking for bags of ice and stuff like that, or bean
yeah,
peas. Like, I think for me, that's like it's the most simple scene out of like the whole film, because it's quite like a high intense emotional, or like very like low emotion. For that one, it's like the most like simple thing, but it's
I know what you
gorgeous.
mean. And then they sit on the step, and then they come up with a song together and stuff like that. And he finds out she can sing. Well, he knew she could sing beforehand, but like now she can write her own songs.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's probably the basic scene, which is when she's on stage for the first time. It's just because she sings so bloody well. Um, During that, I think the very end as well, where she sings at the sort of opera house,
Yep.
is bloody emotional as well.
That is
You can
emotional.
just bloody hear the emotion in her voice. Again, like when you watch behind the scenes and stuff, the two of them took it really seriously. It's not like it was a cash grab between bloody Lady Gaga. I believe the original cast was Will Smith and Beyonce. I believe that was the original cast, and I just don't think that would have hit the same. So, especially now, but Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga just had the perfect sort of chemistry to the point where everyone believed they were bloody, having a bloody affair and, and stuff. Yeah, like I said, like my whole family sort of loved it, which is very rare. I think this is just something. I wouldn't say it's for everyone because obviously it's an adult film, but but yeah, no, I would definitely recommend to most people give it a wee go.
The thing about it as well is, like, if it's not your type of film, it could be your type of music as well, because
Yeah, yeah,
like the music in it, it's quite what is it, like, quite.
It was quite different. It's quite diverse. There's like country, then it goes to pop, and then there's there's all different kinds. Um, this one song I really hate, but you're supposed to kind of hate it because it's kind of represents like how she's changed, because she goes from a country singer to this pop idol, and you're like, you're not the same anymore, and that's the exact same feelings he has towards her. I can even relate in some ways with my sisters, where it's just like you just see them change so much, and you're like, I kind of like, you were so perfect beforehand. Like, why are you like like building this fake sort of look for yourself kind of thing? But it's like, at the end of the day, if they're happy, it's like that's what matters. But I suppose
Your
that's
sisters don't plan on watching this, do they?
I don't know, service. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that thing. but like, the point is, like, is she even happy with what she's doing, or is she just doing it because it's what people want from her and what she's known for? So yeah. Again, I haven't watched it too recently, so it's not on top of my head. But I do remember just like loving it, like just so much. Especially that year. That year was easily my favorite. And that year had like Green Book as well, and I freaking loved that film. That was really close to being in my top 5 as well. But yeah, but like, again, it's like what we're saying in the last episode. Like, this follows like a young girl. Like, I can't that sings. Like, I can't really relate to that. I can't even relate to Jackson, the Bradley Cooper's character, that much either. But I'm just in love with the chemistry and the relationship between these two characters. And it is very about these two characters. It's not like there's a whole vast cast of other people. There are some other ones. There's what's his face? It's Sam Elliott's in it. He's really good in it. Um, but it's prominently these two characters and the bond between them.
I like a bit of Sam Elliott.
Yeah, he's
You're
great.
you're swaying me to watch this film now, actually.
I would recommend, honestly. Is there any points you like to make, Robert, before we move on, or?
Bring tissues and take therapy after it.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. No, she did a really great job, and I'm looking forward to her as Harley Quinn in the new Joker film. I think
Yeah,
she'll be
man.
pretty good as that.
I'm buzzing.
I really liked her in House of Gucci. I know House of Gucci was quite mixed for some people, but I really liked it, and I thought she was the highlight. So, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to her sort of future acting career for sure. Were you going to say something, Ryan?
Very good. I was just going to make a dumb joke about Sam Elliott's best film is actually The Incredible Hulk, 2003. So,
What is he? Is he Thunderbolt Ross in that?
oh yeah, mate, you bet your ass he is.
He just looks
You
like him.
bet
Doesn't
your
he?
ass he is. Yeah.
He just looks like.
He's great.
Jesus. All right, okay, we'll move on. There wasn't too much to talk about that one, but that's because it's more
That's
of a
fine.
new one.
Well, that's the thing. We like, I mean, there's no specific length to this, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, we've got tons of honorable mentions if
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
some more films like this anyway. But yep. So
All
let's
right.
start
That was
with
number 5. So number 4, this one hits deep. So as we all know, or at least as we're aware, I love the freaking Rocky franchise. Like, all of them except 5. But I think most people agree with that. Another cringy, another freaking of its time and stuff like that. I grew up with them personally, so they're just freaking gold. Especially a specific bunch, like the first one and the second one. That I'm going to be talking about is Creed, the first one. Now, I don't remember watching this for the first time. That the fact that I didn't have many good like any memories about it kind of just made me think I didn't like it that much, because I really loved the second one where Adonis Creed fights the Russian. I remember loving that, so I was like, shoot, like, Creed 2 is my favorite. But when I did my recent Rocky rewatch, Creed 1 is absolutely fantastic. You forget certain aspects because you remember like Rocky and stuff, but there's aspects of this film that are just freaking amazing. Now, again, like, it centers around a young black kid that went through a lot of trauma and stuff in his childhood, he got arrested in like juvie, I believe it was, stuff like that. So again, it's like not typically stuff I can relate to, but again, I don't really watch films to relate to them. I watch them to get a freaking good movie out of it. You know what I mean? That's what I care about. I care about good acting and good storytelling. Um, yeah, no, Michael B. Jordan freaking smashes it in this film. I believe him and what's her face, Tessa Thompson, have fantastic chemistry. Honestly, you would believe they're dating in real life, 100%. Like they just act like a couple, just as you'd imagine a real one would.
Was this pre Thor Ragnarok? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, this is pre Ragnarok.
Because
This was 2015.
was this her kind of breakout, or was she around a bit before that?
It might have been. It might have been. If you want to look it up.
Oh yeah, just don't trouble yourself.
Oh yeah, man, I'm talking.
He has the talking pillow. I can look into the
I'm talking job. So yeah, it's pretty much about a young man who doesn't want to use his name to kind of cheat his way up or be judged for being a creed or even just the politics between it because his mum, well no, Apollo, his father, cheated on his wife, who then had Adonis. So that was a bit controversial behind the scenes of the boxing. So it's like he doesn't want to kind of put his father under the bus because then they'd be known as a cheater or whatever. But I don't know. I find it just a beautiful film. Obviously, the Rocky parts are my favorite. He unfortunately gets cancer during the film, and it is the most heartbreaking bloody stuff because if you've watched the Rocky films, he's such a kind-hearted man. He's just such a good person. He's always doing good by people. But he never catches a break. Like he always just gets shit to him. Like people die around him. He loses. But then in this film, he gets cancer, and it is heartbreaking because he's kind of in a point of his life where he's not really living for anything because he's not talking to his son anymore. He's just living on his own, working in a restaurant. Like that's all he's doing. But then Adonis comes along and kind of gives him some life to kind of fight again. And it just so happens to come at a point of his life where he needs to fight because he's got cancer. So it's like he kind of needs to fight to live like legitimately. But yeah, it's beautiful. I love seeing the two of them train together, just talking together. It is a boxing film, but at the end of the day, I don't watch it for the boxing. I watch it because I watch it for the relationship between this son who didn't grow up with a father, no father figure, and a old man who's lost his son, not because he died, just a bad relationship with him, doesn't see him. So they kind of both gain so much working together for something they both love, which is boxing, which is just a beautiful sport in my opinion. So yeah, again, I don't think you've seen it, Ryan. I know Robert has. I know you don't love this film. If you want to kind of...
Yeah, I remember when I first watched it. I had came out being like, yeah, it was all right. Like like you said, there was really good scenes, and it was good to see Rocky back, and very emotional. But I don't know, there was just something where you can watch a good movie, but you just can't
yeah,
you're not fully in it or invested in it. And as well, I've never really been invested in Rocky as well. Like it's never been my thing as much as I do enjoy the films. But when two came out, I was like blown away and absolutely loved that. And then three, somehow blew me away even more than the second one did. But it is one of those things where I'm like, I'm rewatching the Rocky films, and I just haven't got to Creed yet.
Yeah.
So I don't have like a...
What the other two films do better, I believe, is the opponent that Creed comes across. So you got
Absolutely
in the second one, and then you got his childhood best friend in the third one. So there's more attachment.
See the rival in the third one. It is so good.
Yeah.
Personally, I when I think of Rocky, I always think of the fourth one, with the Russian guy.
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm always like he's like the big bad
Is
guy.
his name Ivan Drago?
Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Drago. And then with Creed 3, I'm just like I'm like I wouldn't say he's like the same level of like intimidating or like Drago's just got some he's just got that like 1980s like I'm a bad guy. But I'm
Yeah.
like, and when you see, and Rocky's a big guy, and when you see him next to Rocky, Rocky's like nothing, right? He's
Yeah.
just like this skinny little lad, and you're like, holy cow. But I think in 3 they brought more of like like a different type of emotion, while in 4 it was like it was a revenge story, while
Yeah.
3 it is a revenge story, but it's like a brother type of like thing. It's good.
But
It's great.
yeah, it's
10
kind of being it's kind of about like getting what you think you deserve kind of thing. It's like his opponent believed he was owed these opportunities, yet but however he wasn't owed anything. He didn't deserve anything. Didn't earn
Absolutely.
anything. Whereas Creed built himself up from the bottom up without using his sort of family name or anything like that. Yeah, I love the sort of behind the scenes story about the movie as well. How Ryan Coogler, I believe, who directed it, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. Yes, he also directed Black Panther.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
he, I think it was his first film, which is even more impressive. He essentially wrote the script and just chapped on bloody Sylvester Stallone's house, and he was like, "Hey, bro, I've got a story. It's about Apollo Creed's son," and like Sylvester Stallone was like, "Nah, man, like I'm done with Rocky. Like we're it finished. We're not getting back into this because there's a lot of drama, especially during the last two films, where it's kind of better to finish it." That he said he would only come back if there's a good enough script. So Ryan Coogler just constantly pestered Sylvester Stallone to be like, "Hey, man, like I really want to make this film." Um, Thankfully, they eventually did and made this film, and I think it was just a freaking great film for Ryan Coogler to start off. I will say the opponent in the film isn't my favorite. He's a bit forgettable, but like I said before, it's not about the fight in this film. It's about the relationships and the sort of story of Adonis, kind of thing. Yeah, I just think it's a freaking beautiful story, even more so than the original Rocky ones. And I grew up with those ones, so it's a bit weird for me to be like, damn, I think I like this one more. Um, so yeah, yeah. Is there anything else you want to mention, or shall I move on to the next one?
I mean, I've heard the only thing I have heard from Creed is the soundtrack
Oh yeah,
because it's by Ludwig Göransson, who is
mm,
phenomenal. But yeah, Creed's on my. To be honest, Rocky and Creed are to be on my watch list, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did an episode on those as well at some point.
oh, that'd be down, hundred
Or,
percent.
well, maybe not. Oh, could we do each one? Is that too much? Or like so, just like
You can maybe
Keystone
break it
ones?
down. You can maybe break them down into like I don't
Because
know. Whatever.
I guess what you have with some of the like Tarantino films where you haven't seen any of them, and
Mm,
I kind of grew up with the like Tarantino ones.
yeah,
I haven't seen any of the Rockies apart from Rocky Four, and
right,
I've seen
right.
Rocky Four a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen any of the other ones, and not even touched Creed, so that might be a decent episode as well.
I would definitely say Creed. All three of them are better made films for sure. Um, like just by like camera work and acting, for example. But just
Right.
like the original ones have just more of like a real life feel to them. Like Rocky feels like a real guy in a real
Hmm.
place, kind of thing.
I think the thing is as well
Um,
is it'll just be to like modern tastes as well, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah, for sure, and yeah, well, yeah, exactly, exactly. I think Creed just has a perfect blend of the old and the new, whereas the
Yeah.
newer films kind of steer away from the old, which is totally fine. But to please everyone or most people, at least, this one's probably the go-to to get your sort of Rocky from before and now your future in Creed.
Fair dues.
Um, but yeah, yeah. All
I
right,
mean,
so oh, sorry, what were
Tessa.
you
I was gonna say Tessa Thompson did have some other. She had been doing stuff for quite a while before Creed, but I think Creed's like her first blockbuster thing.
right?
But she had done. I think she was known for other things, kind of closer to the like 2010 kind of mark.
Yeah. And then she
But
kind of got into 4 and then
I don't
Men
think
in
it did
Black
read number
and
4. Yeah, I think because
yeah,
that's really when it kicks off to like Men in Black and all that. But
yeah, something like that.
um, yeah, very good. Blasting through these, Brandon. You have to slow down, mate.
Yeah, but well, the next 3 we've all definitely seen them, so we
I was
might be
going to
able to
say
have
I
a
was still on
fair
Return of the
discussion.
Jedi for like another
Oh
30
man,
minutes
trust
by
me,
this
we'll
point.
have, we'll have longer conversations. Story. Okay, so number 3. Now this one's a freaking. I didn't know where to put this one, but just based on the longevity, this one's been one of my favorites for. I kind of had to put it up. My top 2 have always been my top 2, so I've definitely kept them there. But my third one um, was a little bit of a struggle to order them. So we've got a Disney film. I think some of us might already know what it is. It's my favorite Disney film, and my third favorite film of all time is The Lion King. I think it's just a fucking perfect film, start from finish. Doesn't waste any time. It just gets straight into it. Doesn't waste a single scene or shot or freaking image, whatever. Every single shot is integral to the film, and it's just a freaking flawless film. It's a fairly short film for what it is. I believe it's just little, like maybe just a few under 2 hours. I want to say
It's about an hour and a half.
hour and a half. But it freaking flies in. It's like 90 minutes long or something. Yeah, freaking beautiful film. It was never meant to be the film it was. At the time, Disney was putting all their money into Pocahontas, and unfortunately for them, Lion King's what kind of took off. so,
Well,
so
yeah, I think Pocahontas was a bit of a swing and a miss, wasn't it?
yeah, for most people, yeah. Whereas Lion King's
Which
kind
is
of
a
known for
shame
being this
because
sort of,
Pocahontas is directed by probably one of my favorite Disney animators as well.
oh
But
yeah.
I think it's just not that good, is it?
I
It's all
don't think
right.
some people definitely like it. It's not one of my favorites at
It's all
all,
right.
but
But it's
but
no Lion King, yeah.
it's not Lion King. Just literally from the start, the starting song with the Circle of Life by Elton John, man, freaking beautiful start to film. No dialogue, but you
Well,
understand
I think
everything.
Elton John's kind of. I mean, I don't know if this is exactly how he does it every time, but definitely because they kind of. I think they say this in Rocketman and stuff as well, but he says it in interviews as well, where he's not a lyric writer, right?
Mm.
He's a songwriter, like he's a
Like a storyteller within his music.
yeah, but he doesn't really write lyrics to his songs. He kind of takes lyrics and puts them to a tune or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think he did. I think someone else wrote the lyrics for the Lion King songs. I think, and I
Okay.
think he wrote he composed like the music to go underneath it. I
Yeah,
can't quite remember. I don't know if that's 100% true for all the songs. Like I could fact check that, but I think that's the case with definitely the Circle of Life. Is that he came in, he was shown the lyrics, and then he wrote the song. But
yeah.
that's not to like put him down. It's like it's still a banging
No,
song,
that's fine.
but like you know what I mean.
No,
Um,
that's fine.
but
Yeah, I think it's such an iconic start to the freaking film. Everyone knows it. The rising sun in the African bloody desert, and it's funny because as you guys know, I'm not an animal guy. I'm really not. Like, not to say I hate animals.
guy doesn't even like the
They've
zoo. It's
never been.
shocking.
I've never had a passion for animals, but just this film, just shows you how freaking good I think it is because I don't even freaking view them as animals. They're just like freaking characters. Um, yeah, there's so many iconic characters in this film. Freaking Mufasa, freaking the ultimate dad, besides Vader. Funnily enough, voiced by the
for
same
the
guy.
wrong for the wrong reason. For the wrong reason.
Reason. Freaking Simba, the ultimate sort of. I don't. He is an underdog, but at the same time, it's kind of like a destined sort of character. He's destined to be king, but he's constantly sort of undermined by other characters. For example, Scar, who just constantly freaking puts him under the bus, freaking convinces him that he bloody killed his own dad. It's like, that's kind of messed up, bro. Speaking of Scar, I think he is probably my favorite Disney villain. I'm really struggling to think of someone else that kind of tops him. Just because he is so bloody vile, and but it also makes sense because it's like he was I believe he was younger than Mufasa. So he's and he was definitely the weaker one out of the two. He's like very frail compared to him, so he never had a chance of being king. And I know that's a thing in real life where it's like why should the oldest one be king when the younger one might be, more suitable or smarter? Like, why does it always just go down via age or whatever? So it's kind of like that. Not to say Scar is a good. He's destined to be a good king, because he's definitely not, based on what happens in the film. But yeah, just iconic characters. Freaking Timon and Pumbaa, man. They're probably one of my favorite comedic duos in any film ever. Um, just freaking, lovable guy.
So just to touch on the point about Elton John again,
Mhm.
apparently, so Tim Rice wrote the lyrics for Circle of Life. He might have written the lyrics for the whole film. I can't remember, but he brought the lyrics to Elton John, and Elton John wrote the tune to it. But he also finished the lyrics to some Aladdin songs, because the guy who done the songs for Little Mermaid and then Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin was Howard Ashman, and he died of AIDS.
Okay.
But when he died, so this Tim Rice guy, he finished the lyrics and then did Lion King as well, and then did some. He's done some other stuff as well. I did the. He's actually done the the live action remake, some of the music for that as well.
All
I don't know
right.
if that's credited or if that's new music, but
I see.
yeah, so he did the Circle Life lyrics, I think, and then
Interesting.
brought
Well, that's
it
cool.
to
That's
Alan John.
interesting.
But yeah, man,
Um,
I mean, nobody's going to tell you're wrong for a Lion King on top three.
yeah, it's like, even artistically, I think it's better than most bloody animated films today. I think it's gorgeous. Um, Especially during the sort of music videos. Well, I say music. I don't want to call it music videos, but just sort of the musical scenes.
Again, banging cast as well.
Yeah.
Um, Jeremy Irons, like
Hmm.
flawless as Scar. I do
Yep.
like the one thing. There is one thing that bothers me, and again, it comes on that point of like knowing too much about a film, and then you start to notice things that annoy you.
Right. Yeah.
Is Jeremy Irons doesn't do the singing voice for Scar, or he
Oh.
doesn't always do it. There's certain scenes where it's the guy that voices Winnie the Pooh, funnily enough, that does he
Oh.
fills in for the voice. He does a lot of voices. He's even in Aladdin and stuff like that. He's like the big he's kind of the guard that bullies Aladdin at the start and
All right.
stuff. He has that kind of gruff voice. You'll recognize it. He does Tigger and Winnie the Pooh and everything, but he does loads of voices.
I see.
But he filled in for the singing voice, and like you'll never notice it, but if you're told they're different voices, you'll go, "Oh yeah, they are." And
Nah,
it's
never
like the
noticed
bit when
that.
it kind of swells up a bit, and he's like, "The coup of the century" and stuff like that, and you know it's a different guy, and I'm like, like it's just you know too
Jeez.
much. But
Yeah, yeah.
again, like we said for Prince of Egypt in the last episode, just stacked cast, just absolutely
Mr.
stacked.
Bean.
Yeah, Zazu, yeah, and they never get it right again, like because he's
Yep.
never comes back for the other films, and like you can tell it's not Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Matthew Broderick as well. He's a
yeah.
nice like older Simba. You don't really because I think definitely I missed the boat on Matthew Broderick. Um, I didn't see Ferris Bueller's Day Off until I was a bit older, so
Yeah. Hmm.
um, I never even knew that guy was like that. He was even famous, really. And if you told me that was Inspector Gadget, I'd have told you were lying.
Well, that's what I can knew him for. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
but
good.
I think he's a great Simba. And Timon and Pumbaa, I think, are probably some of the better comic relief characters as well. Like
Yeah,
Nathan Lane is Nathan Lane is Timon's great. He's
well, it's great.
he's fantastic. I don't know if because my kind of inclination with some of the better Disney films from the 90s was that they would kind of take celebrities that were, I don't want to say past their best because that's a bit mean, but were kind of off their prime. They'd had their prime moment in the 80s and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and then they'd kind of had a lull. And they might have like recovered after that or because of the Disney films, but um, I feel like the best Disney films can operate in that region where like Tim Allen as Buzz, like he'd kind of fallen off from his
Yeah.
more kind of famous stuff in the 80s and TV shows and stuff, and he kind of had a
Mhm.
bit of controversy around him, and then he'd kind of been revived by Disney, by like being Buzz Lightyear, and I think that was kind of the case with Billy Crystal and stuff as well with Mike Wazowski. But like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
to imprint this. I'm just going to check it now, but I kind of get that vibe from like Lion King as well, where you have your Matthew Broderick, you have your like James Earl Jones was doing stuff, but like since Star Wars, like how do you top that? Like,
Yeah. And
um,
I'd say Lion King's definitely second most sort
oh
of
yeah, Yeah.
iconic role. I know he's in what's it called, like Moving to America or something. I know he's in that. Is that what the film's called with Eddie Murphy? I think it's called that. But yeah, I think Statcast. All the songs are complete bangers. Freaking, I don't even think I have a favorite because they're all just
I'll tell you
great.
what, the thing is, you've done a good job as well when you spawn like two pretty decent sequels.
For Disney, yeah.
For Disney, I kind of enjoy the sequels as well. I haven't watched them since I was a
I
kid,
actually
but
really like the third one.
yeah, or 1.5 if you're in America.
Yeah,
for
one
some
and a
reason.
half if you want to call it. Yeah.
Or is it here? Is it here that it's 1.5? It's one of the
I'm
two.
not
It's
sure.
3 somewhere and it's 1.5 somewhere else.
Is that with
Timon and Pumbaa.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Timon and Pumbaa breaking the fourth wall. Yeah.
Dicatano.
Shocking. But what's the but even like the song from the second film makes it into either. Oh, I'm gonna have to fact check this as well. One of the songs from the theater show is in the sequel, is in the second film, and that's actually
interesting.
that's quite a good song as well. Where, when usually you get your sequel films and the songs are just never up to snuff.
Yeah.
But
Which
or even in the live action ones, like because I haven't seen the live action one. Is there new music in the live action one?
There's one, but it's not like it's not
It's not good.
It's fine. It's not Lion King because it's just
Yeah.
Beyonce, bloody singing her, doing her thing.
See the live action film. Like, as much as I love Donald Glover and Beyonce, that's all you hear, and it like completely takes away from the film. Like you can't. And I hot take. I personally don't care about the Lion King. Like I don't think it's bad, nor do I think it's outstanding. I just think it's like it's a film. If you like it, you like it.
We haven't filmed Robert's episode yet, Brandon. We can still get rid of him.
No. I'm not saying no. It's just one of those films. Is like I grew up with like Iron Giant. Like that was that was my like one growing up as a kid. So like all the other ones, except from Prince of Egypt, you know what I mean. Anyway, not that The Lion King's bad in any way. It's just not my type of film. But see like the live action one. I'd like it. Just makes me it does a thing where I do not like it. That it makes me like the cartoon one so much more. But then when you go to the theater, it makes me hate the live action one. Don't care for the drawing, the animated one, but love the theater one. And it's such a weird thing. Like they don't complement each other, and it feels like they pin each other.
I do
like
think
they're fighting each other.
The weird thing is as well is most of the film, it looks kind of I don't want to say like standard, but it looks kind of like regular Disney, right? But during the songs, it gets pretty stylized and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of like kind of African kind of tribal patterns and all that kind of stuff and going on, and you've got like the kind of paper looking background and stuff like that with like I Just Can't Wait to Be King, and you have these kind of like bold visuals in the cartoon that you could never do in live action, so you kind of already lose that element. And you can get that in the theater because they have all the extravagant costumes and they lean into it, and they obviously the theater kind of has to be a bit, well, it doesn't have to be, but it's a bit bold as well. But then with the live action, it's like, well, how do you, I haven't seen it, but like I can imagine that's hard to touch on if you're going for realism.
Well, like see that one scene where they go to the like what you
the
said,
graveyard.
And then it's like that whole journey, right? Like that whole like from start to end of like leaving to going to the graveyard. Every scene is so beautiful and the colors are insane. But in the live one, I say it's live action, the CGI one, it's just like you're just following Simba. You know what I mean? It's like you're not in it. You're not like, whoa, the colors, whoa, the animation of like an elephant just squished the giraffe and now is going flying and spun around, and like it's not exciting. There's nothing exciting about it.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with a lot of these live action remakes, where it's like it's obviously not the story that's that we don't like the remakes because they mostly are just the same. For example, The Lion King is the same story. The Beauty and the Beast is the same story. The issue is that it's the style that's completely changed and it's completely taken out a lot of character and emotion out of the cartoon characters that there was before. I think a great example is bloody Flounder from Finding Nemo. Not Finding Nemo, Little Mermaid. Because like I'm not even seeing it, but just based on trailers, it's like there is no character. It's just a fish. It's just a bloody fish. You know, there's no eyes that can resemble emotion. There's no faces. It's the same with Lion King, where it's like you're used to the emotions from the lions or the animals, especially like Timon and Pumbaa. But with the real life animals, you can't exactly do that because animals don't really show emotion except when they open their mouth. So it's like, so yeah,
Well, they do. They do show emotion.
but
But
it's
yeah,
hard. It's hard to like tell
you're correct.
in a film to like especially when they're talking as well.
Yeah, but when you're designing an animated character, it's not just about like there's a lot of balance things you have to go into it where like you're balancing, is the character interesting to look at, and that's like one part of it is the aesthetic, but then
Mhm.
you also have like all these parts of like, is it a character that's malleable in the medium where like you have to have a character that's able to express emotion
Yeah.
because you have to be able to do that with an animated character
Mhm.
because you're like well, if you're not going for realism, you're usually pushing the emotion and the staging and the like kind of expression in the body language. You're usually pushing it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but not every character can do that, which is why characters tend to kind of not follow a trend, but like there's like specific principles in animation. But when you go to live action, it's like, well, there's certain things that you know when you're looking at a realistic image or a realistic film that you know a lion shouldn't be able to do.
Mhm.
And when Simba's like jumping between alligators and it's really like bouncy and expressive, it's like you're using principles of animation like squash and stretch and stuff like that to kind of emphasize certain movements, and it's like you're acting through these characters to get that kind of emotion out. But then, how do you do that in real life and make it look good
Yeah.
when it's supposed to also look realistic? So
I
you're
think
not
you
just
nailed
it's
it.
not
Yeah.
just that you're losing like the bold color palette or style. It's like you're completely losing the entire point in animation in the first place almost.
Mhm. Well, the issue is like they're trying to make them look as real as possible, yet still put them in unreal situations. But then in doing that, takes away from the realism, as you were saying with the Simba, jumping on crocodiles and stuff.
Could I think they probably could have got away with, you know what I mean? Because like at least like Tim Burton, because like the original kind of live action remake, I guess there was 101 Dalmatians or whatever, but like the real big one that kind of connects up to the modern ones is Alice in Wonderland, right? From like 2010 or whatever, the Tim Burton one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like live action, but it's really stylized as well, where it is you could figure out how to make those characters in 2D animation as well.
Hmm.
Apart from maybe the lead, like Alice, she's just kind of a regular girl, but all the other characters kind of you could see how you could translate those into animation. Because well, I mean the Red Queen, like her head's fucking massive. Like
And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the
you know what I
slight,
mean, it's like
like the
stylized, it's pushed, yeah.
and like the guys whose like arms and legs, like they're constantly like stretching and sinking. Like
Mm.
the two like small little
Tweedledee and
dudes.
Tweedledum.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
I love those. I love those films just to like. I wouldn't say they're amazing or anything, but like visually they're outstanding. But yeah, Disney aren't.
yeah. I wouldn't say that. Thing is, I wouldn't even say that they're like. I'd say they're probably closer to the. I wouldn't say that they're the best idea, but they're probably the closest to the model of what I would be more happy with from a Disney live action remake. If something where it's like you're kind of like, at least you're showing me something I haven't seen before, or like
Yeah,
something like, you know what I mean? Because if you just go imagine, if you think in your head and you go close your eyes, now imagine the Lion King was real with real lions, and I'm
Hmm.
assuming that's exactly what you see on the page, when
Yeah.
exactly what you see on the screen. It's just exactly what you can
And don't
picture
get
in
me
your head.
wrong, they look great.
Yeah.
Like they do. Like all the animals look fantastic.
The other thing is, but then like if you think about if you compare that to the live action Alice in Wonderland, and you go back to the 2D Alice in Wonderland, you go picture that in live action.
Hmm.
Well, your picture is probably going to be quite different from what Tim Burton's picture is as well.
Yeah.
Because you can stylize it. Obviously, that's part of the subject matter as well, where like Alice in Wonderland's a bit of a more wacky concept, but then maybe lean into that for the live action remakes, and or do the opposite. And I think Mulan was probably the one where the litmus test for could they pull this off properly, where they take a human lead and then put them in a live action film? And they fucked that as well. But I don't know. That just seemed like they shot themselves in the foot. I mean, that seemed like an easy one to adapt, right?
You'd think.
Yeah, I think as well they had removed a lot of the characters that were really special to a lot of people, and so then it was just
I think you probably could have gotten away with a more realistic Mulan if you'd gotten rid of Mushu. I think people would be upset with Mushu anyway, and I mean Mushu's great, but I think you probably could have got away with doing a realistic Mulan. But it was just shit, wasn't
well, I turned it off, and
it?
and
Well, exactly.
I was really annoyed because I love Mulan. I think Mulan's such a
That's great. Yeah.
good. Yeah, it's like absolutely amazing.
Mr. Miyagi's last film. What was his? Oh, mate.
Well, like the thing about Mulan as well, right? Like it's got so many good little stuff to it because like the whole film, it's singing really happy, really happy, really happy, and then there's a point where they go over the mountain, and then you see that, and there's not a song left in the film. Like there's no longer like,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's just like just something that small, right? And it's like to like maybe not a lot of people notice it, but it's like it's a big thing, and it really like steers the story. It's something small, but it steers it into like okay, now it's serious. This is a serious thing now. But like the Milan, the live action, and like the actors they did great for what they were told to do, but the movie was like just ass. I didn't care.
I think this might be the other thing as well. Is we were talking about Lion King, right, and how stacked the cast is, and Prince of Egypt and how stacked the cast is, but you don't like. I remember the cast, and I remember the characters partly because of the cast, but it's also they're given really good performances, like knockout performances, and I think that my issue with like if I just pick an example, like the Jungle Book, the live action remake,
Mhm.
is they all seem apart. Well, I'll make an exception. Is I think Ben Kingsley was quite good in that film, and I think yeah, that's probably it. The kid was good as well, but
Yeah, the kid was
Mate,
the
Christopher
kid
Walken
was
is freaking
Christopher Walken was
Monty.
the most phoned in crap I've ever heard. He just could not give less of a shit, and I'm like, well, fair enough, you got Christopher Walken, and I think you could pull off Christopher Walken King Louis. I mean, I probably wouldn't be my
He's
first
really
choice,
good.
but you
He's really
could.
good.
But he just didn't give a shit, did he?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's the same with like Bill Murray as Balloon. It's like, well, Bill Murray is, I mean, you could definitely make that work, and I think to a degree it did. But when he's singing the bare necessities, it's just shit. Like there's not like you can't even say anything else. It's just ass, and it's like, I mean, it's like
yeah.
if you're gonna hire these big names, and the same with like Scarlett Johansson, it's just like why even bother bringing Ka back if they're not gonna do anything? Like I get the thing is in the original films like when you go back and watch Disney films, there's a lot of that where like some characters just don't really do anything. But I guess that's of its time as well, and it's a lot more about I don't know what it's about, but like what I mean, like when you're updating someone for the modern day, it's like you could at least kind of slap a new veneer on it and make it work in a way that the old didn't. Um, Especially if you're losing the intrigue of animation, but it seems weird that like because if I'm watching Jungle Book 2016, I go oh Ben Kingsley, and I hear Ben Kingsley, and I go, "Oh, Bill Murray," and I hear Bill Murray, and I hear Bill Murray because Bill Murray's sitting in his desk doing Bill Murray's voice. He's not doing a Baloo character. He's doing
Yeah.
I'm singing the bare necessities, and it's the same with Christopher Walken. It's Christopher Walken being forced at gunpoint to sing the bare
Oh,
the
be like
jungle
you.
song, the I Want to Be
Yeah.
Like You, and it's not like I think maybe this is where I haven't seen Aladdin remake, but I think this is maybe where that did a bit better with Will Smith. Is that at least they kind of did they give him a bit more free reign?
I think so. Yeah, and they don't just copy Robin Williams. They definitely
Yeah,
make it more for Will Smith, which I think is the better way to do because you're not going to be able to repeat Robin
I don't
Williams.
think you get that in some of the other ones. It's just like you
Yeah,
say, it's Donald Glover
yeah,
sounding like Simba. You just imagine Donald Glover in a booth. Whereas when you look back at the old one with like Timon and Pumbaa, like yeah, sure, like not everyone knows who Nathan Lane is anyway.
mm.
That wasn't a diss. I like Nathan Lane, but like I hear his
No.
voice and I think Timon. I don't hear his voice and think oh Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, see, now I'm not. I don't want to. Brandon's a bit sensitive when I bring up this movie, and I'm not shitting on it. But see, Solo. The issue with that I had with Solo is like you look at the actors, and it's like I can't get. It's not the character, right? I'm
Richard
just seeing like.
Ayoade, what are you doing in my Pixar film? Yeah.
I'm just seeing like I'm seeing the actor. I'm not seeing a character, and I think
Yeah.
it's the same with what you're saying. Is like there's an actor playing as an actor, and then there's an actor playing as a character.
Well, I think this is the strange thing as well. Is I guess this is a much bigger topic, and we'll get back to your list in a second, Brendan.
Yeah, sorry, Brandon. We've totally like
We
derailed it.
stretched out.
I think the thing in general is right is like I guess you had this period where voice actors didn't exist because like animation didn't really exist. I guess you had like radio. I guess you had like radio characters, like people talking like radio stories and stuff like that.
Well,
But, like,
it was very silent film, right? Like,
well, but even when you get to like 50s and 60s, right? And Disney films are like they've been around for a good like 15, 20 years now.
You've had your Snow White's, Pinocchios.
Yeah. And like these are all unknown. I mean, they're unknown to us, I guess. I'm assuming they weren't like crazy well known at the time either. Because I know animation didn't always get the respect it kind of deserved.
Well, even in
terms
Disney,
of, like, Hollywood.
they kind of hired like theater actors because they're more known for singing and
yeah.
stuff, you know. So
The other thing is as well is the old Disney was a little bit more of like a kind of like a group as well, where you get a lot of recurring voices. So like Winnie the Pooh is the same as Kaa in Jungle Book, and
that's mad.
The Cheshire Cat. Like it's the same guy. Sterling Holloway, he's a great voice actor. Probably one of my favorites actually. But you get this thing where you get kind of like recurring characters, but I guess they're voice actors. Like they're picked because they fit the role. They're not picked because they're famous, because they weren't famous.
Yeah.
But nowadays it is very. I completely understand why. Like a business perspective,
It sells
obviously it makes sense.
Yeah.
It sells. It's just a shame that that's the case because you kind of. I feel bad because you imagine being a voice actor. You dedicate your time and your career to becoming a voice actor, and then like someone just comes in and sweeps away all the best jobs in the medium because you're not famous enough.
Well, it's like for example, I think a good example is, for example, Toy Story, not Toy Story. I mean, you could use Toy Story, but I was going to use Monsters Inc. So you've got like John Goodman is Sully, right? Now John Goodman's a pretty established actor. He's not exactly a voice actor, but he fit the role of Sully perfectly. Whereas, for example, I love this film, the Mario movie. He probably could have found a better person than Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt did a good enough job, I think, at least. But he could have found someone better, you know, that kind of fit it better.
Yeah. Props to Chris Pratt. That was much
100%. I don't think the trailer gave him justice. I think he definitely came across a little better in the film. But you know what I mean, though. It's like he was 100% picked as he's a big actor.
Just prick. What's his name? Is it Chris Martinez or something? The original voice actor of Mario.
He was learning in the film as well. He did the Easter egg cameo.
Charles Martinet.
So, but you know what I mean? Like they pick them for their names these days rather than they actually fit more. Same like we said, like Beyonce. I guarantee they just bloody picked her because she's a good singer, and you know.
I mean, the thing, I guess you can maybe justify Beyonce a little bit because she's been in films before, but like when those films are Austin Powers Gold member, it's not exactly
when Nala's singing in the film, you shouldn't think it's Beyonce, but you totally are because you're like she's doing all over vibratos and bloody stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like doing her little bits. He's like, well, it's just Beyonce, mate. You know?
Well, I guess you get to that point as well where you're like, well, they're just showing off. They're just like, it's a bit like they're just showing what they can do rather than what's best for the character.
Doing the Seth Rogen laugh, it's like that's not like it works,
right?
Because I kind of see it, but again, it's just Seth Rogen though.
Speaking of phoned in performances in Mario, Seth Rogen was a shocking Donkey Kong.
But you know, that's he was shocking. I think that is a big thing. I mean, we could probably have an whole episode dedicated to this sort of thing anyway, where we can talk about actors and voice actors.
Anyway, it's probably been about 20 minutes since we were on your top 5. So
that's fine, mate. That's fine. So at the end of the day, Lion King, I think, is a perfect film. Number 3. Start from finish, absolutely love the relationship between Simba and Mufasa, especially.
Favorite scene?
Yeah, it's really good. Favorite scene? People would say the death scene, but I think that's just way too obvious. I think for me, it is when Mufasa talks to Simba about the circle of life and just kind of goes through that whole thing. And I think that ties in perfectly to when he dies, because obviously um, Mufasa kind of had to die for Simba to kind of mature into his own man, kind of thing. What were you going to mention, sorry?
I was going to say we haven't even talked about the best character in the film, which is bloody Rafiki.
Freaking Rafiki, mate. Oh,
it's bloody
man,
Rafiki, innit?
he is
He's banging.
amazing.
He's so good.
He's
Asante
so
san,
good.
squash banana. he's so good. Man, that's gonna be stuck in my head at work tomorrow.
see Rafiki in the theater one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The woman who played him was absolutely amazing. Like, it's like no matter what, that character is just 10 out of 10. Like
Yeah.
in all three. Oh, I love.
Who was Rafiki someone famous in the live action?
They're all famous.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know.
They're all
I mean, I honestly didn't give it enough attention. I really like Donald Glover, and that's the only reason why I know he played
I thought he did
Simba.
a good job too. Actually, I don't think his singing parts even like kind of stuck out, and to the point where it's like, oh, it's just Donald Glover. Whereas unlike Beyonce, I believe, where it kind of just
I don't know. I think because I listened to Donald Glover.
maybe.
I think for me, I was like, I love him, and I think he's great, and whatever he's in. But I wasn't a fan of that one.
That's fair. All right, moving on to my
Yes.
top two. Now this was tricky because these have been my top two since bloody freaking 2010. But it's hard to kind of it's tough for me to kind of pick a favorite between them. So that was the hardest part about this list. I think was like kind of putting one above, because there's one that means more to me, but then there's one that I think's actually a much better film. Not much better, but like a better film, but also means more to me. So I'm like, right, I'm struggling, but I've settled. So number two, we've already kind of talked about it, is The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars Episode 5.
Damn.
Some days I would put it first. Some days I would put it first. Some days I would put it first.
What are
It's
you
just
two
tough.
doing? What are you? I
It's
feel
just tough.
like
My number one's always kind of been in the conversation for number one, but this one, it's so like I said, like tomorrow I might change my mind, but today that's kind of what I'm sitting on right now.
I don't know who you two are. You both changed your favorite films to second place.
We just all talk, mate.
What is going on? I know,
mate. Well, if you're gonna be
like-
like that, I'm gonna absolutely rip your top five. I knew as.
I'm expecting Good Dinosaur somewhere, mate.
Do you know what? Good Dinosaur is right. Here's a hot take.
No. Save it for the
Are you
Pixar
ready?
episode. They're not ready yet. They're
No.
not ready. This is episode 2.
No,
give them
no.
some time.
No. Good Dinosaur is just a better version of Lion King.
Right, we're moving on.
I'm only teasing.
Moving on before we get cancelled. So, Empire Strikes Back. I think it is the best Star Wars film. I think it's got the best scenes. I think it's got the best music. I think it's got the best characters. I think it's just overall just the freaking tits, mate. I think it's got the best villain in film, in my opinion, which is Darth Vader. You've got the best hero in film, in my opinion, which is Luke Skywalker. You've got the best mentor character in film, which is Yoda, in my opinion. It's just the perfect film. As we kind of talked about before, where it is a bit of a bummer at the end, but I think you kind of need that because the first film ended in such a happy way, where if you're wanting to make a franchise out of this, you kind of need to put stakes in and kind of, I think it helps going forward because it means, okay, our characters can lose. They just did, kind of thing, So it means for episode 6, you're like, well, is Luke going to like succeed? Like it adds all those stakes going forward, kind of thing. And I don't want to get into this, but that's my biggest gripe with the sequels is that Kyle doesn't win. he doesn't win against Rey. There's no
Stakes.
there's no stakes to Ray's story. It just feels like she wins all the time. Whereas Luke constantly just gets his ass handed to him constantly, especially in this film. I don't think he. I mean, the only win I think he gets is in Hoth, and they still lose because
Yeah.
they lost the base. So you know what I mean. So they're just losing for the whole
It's
film.
also, I think it's great as well because it's because of his choice as well. It's not because something external happened to him. He could have stayed with Yoda and lost his friends
Yeah.
potentially, but
Mhm.
finished his training and not been beaten by Vader so badly. But it was his
Yeah.
choice to arrogantly walk away from like the wise choice, and then he paid the consequences for it
Exactly.
as well, which is why it's so satisfying.
Exactly. But yeah, it's just great. It's I think it's a film where you are rooting for Luke, but it's not. It doesn't necessarily mean he's right because if he, I don't know. I'm trying to word it better because it's like Yoda's not wrong in the sense of
Yoda's not wrong, but he's cold. He's not. Yeah,
it was risky. He could have died, and then that would have been it. You know what I mean? Like there's no hope except possibly Leia, but she might have died as well. You know. So I get that perspective of like, no, stay here, train. You've been here for like a week, mate. Like you're not ready to fight Vader, you know. But then Luke's point of view, it's like, no, my friends are gonna die. But that's the person that beats Vader in six is the guy who's not willing to let his loved ones perish. You know what I mean? So it all ties in perfectly, and that's why I freaking love this trilogy so much because it all means something. It's all built.
yeah.
Right into something else. Um, yeah, obviously I can't like not bring up Yoda because he is my favorite movie character of all time, and I think he's just done so perfectly. We watched it not long ago, and
He's just amazing,
he's
isn't he?
so funny. He's so funny in the
Well,
first
yeah,
couple.
because we talked about this when we were watching the film as well. Is the Jedi up until episode one and they become uber serious, they're just
Yeah,
absolute fucking like trolls, mate.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Obi-Wan just like lies shit straight to Luke's face, and he's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, and then has
He
the
knew Leia
gall,
was his sister. He knew
and
Leia was his
yeah,
sister.
and then has the gall in the next film to go, a certain point of view I was right. It's like, just say you lied, mate. Like, stop being a prick. And then like Yoda's just like acting like a total buffoon, like eating his lunch, stealing from his lunchbox, and then fighting over a lamp, and then he's like, the boy is not ready. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so
Complete
weird.
character still. Yeah,
It's so weird that it happened like twice in a row, and just everyone's okay
honestly.
with like, oh yeah, these Jedi are badass. It's like they're total buffoons when you meet them as well. Like,
Just bloody hermits, mate.
yeah,
But I do love that though because again, it's like it makes sense for their character. Because why would Obi-Wan tell Luke that Vader's his
yeah.
dad? Because the point is he doesn't want him to know that it's his dad because then he might be swayed to the dark side or he might find it hard to beat him. But Obi-Wan's like Obi-Wan Yoda want they want Luke to freaking end him. They don't want him to question it or anything like that.
Do you think that's like maybe what they're missing a little bit in the prequels with Yoda is maybe a bit more of his because he's pretty serious in the prequels, right? He's never got like a
Yeah,
comedic streak at all, right?
yeah.
I definitely think so.
Apart from one, I can think of one example where he's a bit like cheeky. He's got a bit of a
Well, when he's training the young ones.
yeah, and he's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, Master Obi-Wan's lost the planet."
yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, I do like that. That is probably the only scene in the prequels that I really like of Yoda because that's I agree with you. That's the biggest shame where with Yoda where his personality's not really shining through. Only sometimes, like I think when he fights Palps, he kind of you know
Yeah.
uh, he kind of comes out of his shell a little bit. But yeah, but in the Clone Wars they definitely bring it out a lot more. Like he's a lot more bubbly
Mm.
and more interactive with his Padawans and stuff like that.
Um,
Um,
what is I've got one criticism for Empire Strikes Back, but I guess it's not so much a criticism, but it's like a point. But if there's
no,
anything that
no,
you've
no.
got that you can criticize or
Not criticize.
off, play
Honestly,
devil's
like
advocate.
I think it might be the same thing, or if it's not, you're definitely going to agree with me. I think they should have kind of planned ahead with the whole Luke and Leia being brother sister because they kind of kiss in this film, and it's a bit weird. So it's like just kind of if you move past that, then it's like you're fine. But they have a whole they have a whole thing. I'm glad that Han and Leia become the couple, which again they're so good together.
Yep.
It's probably one of my favorite. It is a love story. It is probably one of my favorite love stories in film because it's so simple but it's so effective in the amount of screen time they have together.
Just Harrison
Um,
Ford's just so bloody charismatic as well,
it's
and
so
then
good.
like Carrie Fisher just bounces off him so well as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Thing
yeah.
is, she's like
And
such a
sorry, go for
like
it.
she's such a like an in your face, but not in a like a my god I hate this way as well.
Yeah,
Where she's
yeah.
not in your face in an annoying way, but she's like, you know what I mean? Like it makes sense as well because she's like a senator or something. Was she a senator?
Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah,
She was
yeah.
something, or like an ambassador or something for Alderaan.
She was in the loop.
Yeah. But yeah, you totally. And I think that's probably the only pro. We're not going to talk about this because it's going to be an absolute shit show. But
Mm-hmm.
that's probably one of the only positives of the Obi-Wan show, right? Is you kind of get you get that Leia kind of shining through a bit with
Yeah,
the I can't remember what her name is, but the young girl.
Vivian.
I did really like. For me, that was definitely the highlight
100%.
of the Obi-Wan show, was seeing that.
But I well, okay. So my one criticism of Empire is it does suffer from what I think is a little bit like middle child syndrome, like middle movie syndrome, um, where the end is satisfying, but not if you had to wait 3 years to get it.
I guess, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's not that I would be annoyed. It's just a bit like it can't help it because it's the middle film and they've already planned, well, semi-planned ahead. Um, that kiss, but like the new Spider Verse, like they've had a 5 year break, but they're bringing out two films within like 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
But a big part of that end film, and I don't think Empire is as bad for it as the new Across the Spider Verse was, but
Mm-hmm.
it does just end. Um, and like Luke's defeated, and then like returns, Han's
Because with
defeated.
at least with Empire, you have the final fight, and when the final fight's happening, you know this is the end.
Well, yeah, I think
It's
that's
not
the
like
thing,
the end
right?
just comes out of nowhere. You know, whereas I think Spider Verse did have,
I do
in my
think,
opinion,
yeah,
at
I
least.
think that's where Spider Verse falls flat on the ending is that the final battle doesn't actually happen,
Yeah.
or there is no spectacle that you can go, oh yeah, this is the final battle of this film.
Hmm.
But I do think there's a little bit. That's maybe why I don't enjoy Empire quite as much because every time I finish Empire, I feel like I have to watch the next one.
Oh, of course, yeah, 100%. But that's me with all the trilogy. Like, I feel like I have to watch all three of them. I know you don't. You watch like six, like 3 times, like back to back, maybe more than that.
Yeah,
But no, that's a valid point. That's a valid point. I think that's a point with most like franchisey
I think
films
that's
as
just a
well.
product of what it is though, because like Episode 4 was never. I mean, he'd written it with like a sequel in mind, but he never knew he was going to get it, so he had to finish the film in a way that was satisfying as a solo project, right?
Yeah,
I feel like that maybe that is done in Empire, but I don't think it's done as much. But it makes sense because they knew they were getting another film. But yeah, um, I will
yeah,
say
yeah,
I think in terms of actual like cinematography, there's something about this film that looks better than all the other ones. Uh, Even the other two OG films. Empire,
mm,
Return of the Jedi, just in terms of like bare bones, looking at how beautiful is this film to watch, is not as good looking. I will say that. There's something about Empire that looks better,
yeah,
and I don't know exactly what it
hmm,
is,
yeah,
but there is definitely. If you're looking out for it, like if you go in with the express purpose of being like, how good does this film look in terms of like framing and shots and staging and that kind of thing, and just I don't know
yeah,
what it is, just the film. I don't know, like the lighting. Like I think I think part of it, definitely, I noticed actually on the last watch is there's a lot of really good lighting in this film that, and that's the thing. It's a bit it's a bit. I don't want to get like too snobby and down in the dirt, but like, um, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like, oh, the lighting in this is so good, and like, oh, the film's just not as good if you don't appreciate the lighting. It's like you don't need to do that, but like, there's some really interesting lighting in this film where you get some really interesting like blocking, I guess, or like I guess framing of like characters and stuff like that. And you do get that in other films, but I think this one just looks the best. And I don't know whose responsibility that
yeah,
is, but very good.
yeah, man.
Very good. I like. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, I think not saying because obviously. I'm not going to say all the characters at their peak here, but I think some are. Like, for example, I think Han Solo's at his peak in this film. Because he is like a main character. He's not a main character in six. I don't think he is very like, oh, I'm just going to chill and Hoth and and not Hoth at Endor and just freaking do the base. Whereas this film, he is like the main. He's the captain of the Falcon. He's the one leading them. You know.
But considering Harrison Ford was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Han Solo as a character. Mate, he knocks it out of the park.
Yeah,
He's so great.
Great, isn't
Yeah,
he's great.
he's fantastic.
So good.
He's super charismatic as well. Like, because the thing is, I guess that's like his character, and he's always known for that. But like, I never quite registered until the last watch where I was like, damn, like this guy's like, he's a smooth,
Yeah.
smooth guy.
He's great.
He's real good.
He's got that riz.
I think just date the video. Why don't you with the word Riz? We're too old to say Riz, boy.
Again, I mentioned at the start. I think this film has the best music as well because people forget that the Imperial March didn't happen until this film. You've got the Yoda theme in this film. You've got the asteroid field music in
And
this
Leia's
film.
theme.
Leia's theme, like mate, like this. It's just banger. But the John Williams with bring him up, freaking the tits when it comes to music.
I think what I just to slow
I
down,
know.
I was gonna say I was really impressed last time by like how like because the thing is I guess with Han, because you think he's charismatic, I don't know, I didn't always have this impression, but I kind of got the like a slight impression that he maybe wasn't as like intelligent, but like if you watch the film, like he's like a really competent guy in the universe as well.
Yeah.
Like he knows his shit. It's not like he's just charismatic and nothing else. Like he obviously gets himself into bother with like Jabba the Hutt and like in the first film,
Yeah.
and then obviously that comes in this film when he gets put in carbonite. But he's not a dumbass. Like
Yeah.
he has like jokey moments and cheeky moments, but they don't play him off as like the fool.
Yeah.
Like he's like really smart. Like he's the first one to realize that they're in the asteroid, that they're inside like a monster. And he's like, right, we have to go like, straight away.
I think this is where Robert's point came in earlier, where in the Solo film, he does feel like he's just a bit goofy and he's just kind of a bit of a dumbass. Until the end, though, because at the end, it's like a sick moment where he doesn't even let Woody Harrelson's character finish his line when he shoots him. That is Han Solo. Like that's at the point where like you've done it, mate. Like I'll forgive the rest because
I shouldn't be watching an hour to 2 hour movie for the last 5 minutes to be like, there's the main character.
I suppose, but if it's an origin story, you're kind of waiting for like it's a character.
Not the last 5 minutes though.
Well,
I had nothing good.
The whole thing is him trying to it's him growing into his own person and stuff. Like I don't know, there's certain stuff I don't like. The whole I have a second name. I'll name you Solo.
I was gonna say I like the bit when you find out how he got his famous socks.
Yeah, he's so
like
yeah, like there's some silly stuff.
Like, tell me how you get his dice and the Millennium Falcon and his name.
Yeah, there's
like
some stuff that I just don't like.
Yeah, where do you buy his clothes?
Like where does he get the Falcon? That's a story you want to know, but not like the dice. you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, we talked a little bit Star Wars last time, so I think that'll wrap it off. Besides, I will say one last thing is that as a kid, you don't really remember quotes or lines, or at least I didn't, except for this film. This was the film where I really remembered lines, and they all came from Yoda, funny enough. And I think that's why it stick with me at the time, because a lot of his quotes or lines meant a lot at the time, at least.
I think, yeah. So, favourite scenes is Yoda?
Favourite scenes probably when he lifts up the ship. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
It's just, that just epitomizes what is a Jedi, or at least like what can a Jedi be? Because at that point you don't. It's just like the max you've seen is Obi-Wan, and even then, like, you didn't see that much in the first film. You know, he was clearly competent, but
does he even use the Force in the first one? Apart from he uses like Force like tricks.
Well, yeah, it was all mind games in the first film. Whereas in the second one, it's more, I don't want to call it physical, but visual. And to see the tiniest little dude do the most OP stuff, it's a great visual.
Just out of left field as well. I think. Well, this will be my last point. I don't know if you want to make like a rounding off point as well before we move on to number one, but it's not the obvious choice Like nowadays, like because we grew up with it, it makes sense, and that's just it makes sense because that's what you watch. But like, I guess going from Alec Guinness, who is fantastic, um, you go from like this like celebrated old man, like old actor being your mentor figure,
Mhm.
to like basically the best Kermit the Frog there's ever been. And like, I just can't believe George expected people to buy that and it
Yeah.
worked. Like,
And the thing is that like Yoda was never meant to exist because Alec Guinness was never supposed to die in the first one. He was supposed to live through that and be the mentor throughout the trilogy. But that was a last minute decision. So Yoda was so by the time 5 came along,
I didn't
George,
know that.
yeah. So when 5 came along, George was like, shoot, I need like a new mentor character. F it, we'll just make this frog. It's like what?
that's what I mean.
So why was it that Alec left? Like, what was the last?
Well, no,
one?
it was just I think he was thinking of pacing for the first film that there wasn't it didn't feel like the stakes were high enough.
Yeah.
And it was also I think he didn't have anything for Obi-Wan to do in the finale, so he just felt like he was just hanging around.
Well, yeah, because he was saying like he was just sitting with Leia doing nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what's the point?
So
But
he may
let's
as well
kill him
kill
and
him.
help Luke via the Force, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, great decision because then Yoda wouldn't have existed, and
Yeah.
he's the best.
So that's what I mean. It's like you would expect though, like right? Because like I guess if you're like going into a cinema in 1980 and you're watching Empire Strikes Back and Luke's on Dagobah looking for a Jedi and he meets a frog, you're like, oh, this is like a local creature,
Yeah.
and this is going to take him to the Jedi Master who's going to be like a human,
Mm-hmm.
like another
Yep.
old man like Master Yoda. It's going to be great. You're probably expecting, I don't know, maybe like a Japanese samurai type,
You see,
and he's like,
Yoda!
the boy's not ready. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
so
yeah.
good.
And it's not obvious, and I just don't feel like I feel like that could have been a massive swing and a miss, but they just
100%.
absolutely nail it, and I'm like, I don't feel like you get massive swings like that all the time,
Nah,
where it's
No,
like it's
absolutely
just
not.
like just throw it to the wall and see what works, and it just
100%.
absolutely knocked it out of the park. But yeah, that'd be my closing.
But
I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, it's you want any closing remark on Empire Strikes Back?
me.
Yeah, or
I
Robert as well.
just freaking probably is my favorite film. It's just today another film's edged it out. It probably means the most to me because of the characters and the franchise. Obviously, it's hard to not include the other two films because they are just so well tied together. For example, like I love Episode 6 almost just as much. It's just if I had to pick one, it's this one. But yeah, I'm sure we'll have more conversations about these films anyway. So,
100%.
so yeah. All right. So, number one. Some may already know. I think it is the best film ever made. I don't think it's not. It's not a debate for me where where like I could see why people don't see as Empire Strikes Back or Lion King is the best film ever. But this film, like in my mind, it is acting wise, writing, directing. Well, majorly directing because it's my favorite director, Christopher Nolan. It is The Dark Knight, the best film in my opinion. And
That's the second one, right?
that's the second one with Joker.
That honestly,
I think-
totally like.
I think Heath Ledger's Joker is the absolute best acting I've ever seen in a film. You could make debates. Obviously, there's a debate because there's dozens of amazing actors and performances. But for me, it's Heath Ledger's Joker. He completely transforms into the role. Especially Heath Ledger, a guy that nobody thought would be a freaking good Joker at the time, and because of him, we've learned from that circumstance and judge that for future performances. For example, but like Chris Evans is for the Captain America, or Tony for the Tony Stark, or even Joaquin Phoenix. Well, no, I think Joaquin Phoenix everyone kind of knew. Or Robert Pattinson is Batman. Like even Ben Affleck, people kind of put down like, "Oh, he can't be Batman," and then
Nah, he can. He can.
all right, we'll move on. Some people would disagree.
I only kid.
But yeah, so I think Heath Ledger kind of changed the game, especially for comic book movies as well. Because before this, that's all they kind of were seen as is comic. Even though I absolutely love them, like Spider-Man 2 is a 10 out of 10 film, but it was a comic book film. Like it is, even the way it's directed and stuff. Like it has that comic book feel, and there's nothing wrong with that. I absolutely love that. Even with some Marvel films nowadays, again, I love them, but they just feel comic booky. Whereas this film is just a film that has Batman in it, and it doesn't feel out of place, or it's like, oh, why is there a bat on the screen? I never get that feeling. It's just a freaking man dressed as a bat. but it's not like in your face enough to be like, it's not like a Halloween costume like Michael Keaton or whatever. It feels legit, which I think is the point of the first film. They kind of tried to legitimize some of the decisions going forward. But yeah, I just think every actor knocks it apart. Who plays Two-Face? What's his name again? Because he is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Aaron Eckhart.
He is amazing.
He was fantastic. If Joker wasn't in this film, he would have been known as one of the best bloody superhero villains ever, because he was fantastic. Even I actually like him more as Harvey Dent than Two-Face though, because I think his Harvey Dent's freaking class. He has one of the best lines as well.
He's really good in Sully as well, actually.
I've actually not seen Sully, but
You've not seen Sully?
Oh, really? Sully's good.
yeah, he is great. I just love the whole, what would you call it? I guess like the whole mantra is if you don't, what is it? If you don't, I'll either live long enough to see yourself become the villain. What's how's that line go? It's either die a hero, or live long to see yourself become a villain. I just love that line, and I think that just fits Batman perfectly. The relationship between Bruce and Maggie, Rachel, that's her name. Yeah. Gary Oldman is freaking Gordon. He is the best Gordon.
Gary Oldman is really fucking good in this film.
He's so
He
good,
is.
man. Like
He
go for it.
he might be my favorite part of the trilogy, actually.
He is up there, 100%. That's what I mean, though. All the actors are class in these films. But
I honestly, right? I think Alfred is my favorite out of that trilogy.
He
like
is,
genuinely,
yeah,
I think everyone's amazing, right? But I just anytime Alfred's on screen, I'm like, this guy.
yeah, man.
He's got some great lines.
Like cocaine. He's so
Yeah,
good.
he's so good.
Just want to see the world burn. Like, he's
Yeah.
so great. That's what I mean. Every actor, like, people forget Morgan Freeman's in this bloody film.
I know, and Morgan, like,
and
like
it doesn't feel
for-
weird. It feels he just fits in. You know, it doesn't feel like he's
Absolutely.
Morgan Freeman.
well, see, even Cillian Murphy,
Yeah.
like originally Cillian Murphy was cast as Batman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they switched, and he's playing. I know he's not in the second one, or he might be in it for like a small bit.
He's at the start.
Yeah. But like him as Scarecrow,
Mm-hmm.
like he's so good,
He's
and
really-
and he's he's a massive part in the first one, but in the other two, really small.
Mhm.
But like
Even
So-
Liam Neeson as well.
yeah,
I
Liam
forget
Neeson, like
Yep. Mhm.
like even and I know a lot of people don't. Well, not a lot of people. I know there's like a little hot take on the third one,
Yeah.
but like even the third one, everyone's great in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think as well that a real strong point of them is in the same way that Sam Raimi Spider-Man films are very Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm.
This is like distinctly Chris Nolan as well.
Yeah.
Where it's not like he had to like obviously I don't think it's as Chris Nolan as some of his other films, but like it doesn't sacrifice his kind of vision, his style, just to conform to what like a Batman film should be.
Yeah.
It is just a Chris Nolan film that happens to have Batman in it.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that's the way to do it as well, because it is a bit like it's hard to put, especially at this time, because at this time it was Sam Raimi, Spider-Man, and bloody Fantastic Four and X-Men. That's all that was really going on.
Well, Spider-Man 3 came out the year before this, right?
Yeah, exactly, and they're just all so like comic booky, So and it's just nobody really saw like a real sort of realistic superhero kind of movie. And again, I hate even calling it a superhero movie because it's barely that. It's got superhero in it. It's like it's not a superhero movie. I don't think it's more of like a
See my uncle. See when he had first seen the movies.
Mhm.
He said his favorite thing about the movie was you could replace Batman completely and just put in like a random person, and it would still be a 10 out of 10 film.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, and he was saying as well, he was like, there's a lot of films that you take out a character, and then the whole film just flops and like completely like falls underneath. But it's like it's that one trilogy that you can take so many things out and it's still perfect.
Mm-hmm. It's because Batman's not even the focal point of the film. It's Harvey and Joker. It's not even Joker,
Yeah.
honestly. I'd honestly say it's Harvey because he's the one that people are. Well, he's supposed to be like the White Knight. That's what they call him, like the people's champion, essentially. Whereas Batman's the sort of warrior of the shadows kind of thing, doing the things that no one should really know about kind of thing. But yeah, it's got one of my favorite scenes of all time ever, which is the interrogation scene. Just writing wise, like script wise, I think it's so perfect. The back and forward between them, and it's like you do forget there's not a lot of scenes between Batman and Joker in the film. There's only like a couple. There's not a lot. So when you do get that scene, it's freaking fantastic. Obviously Heath Ledger just freaking smashing it. In that scene too. It's a smart film as well because I hate when the villains are idiots and they just get constantly outsmarted. Whereas in this film, Joker's constantly like ahead of the curve in his own words as well.
Yeah, I think the thing would be as well is that he was planned to be in the next one as well,
Yeah.
right? So it would have even been that because he does go down like he's not. Thing is, he's not a fighting character, but once he's down, he like it doesn't take much to take him down once he's kind of like already been foiled in like the main boat because like his whole plan isn't to do with like him doing something. It's about putting other people in a position where they're gonna compromise themselves.
Exactly.
But when he's taken out, I guess the thing is, oh, he's going to be in the next film. But obviously, never happened.
It's as well as like
But
his goal was also to manipulate Harvey into becoming what he swore he wouldn't.
So he succeeded, even though he lost.
Well, exactly. Like he went, and I think that's a running thing with some of my favorite films. Is I like it when the villains have a lasting impression on the hero, because then Harvey, becomes the main villain.
I think he does a great job of setting up exactly who the Joker is as well, especially with like the money scene, the pile of money.
Yeah.
And he like burns his half, and he's like, it's not about the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about fucking with Batman, basically.
Essentially, yeah. It's like proving a point kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also love that it's a little detail where he lies about his origin constantly, so you never really get a good idea.
Yeah, that kind of comes from the
piece
comics
together.
as well.
Well, yeah. I quite like that because it doesn't tie it down to like, oh, it's this Joker.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like when stuff does come for the comics, it's like that's not putting it down either. Where it's like Nolan's taken like the best parts of Batman, and he's, or even like parts that are underrepresented as well, and then just like meshing them together in like the best way possible. So it's just, and the thing is as well, it's not like it's realistic, but it's not as like say realistic as the Batman, because the Batman was stylistic, but it was probably more realistic than Nolan's Batman, right?
In ways, I think they are similar. I think they're.
Yeah, they're similar, but I would say probably Matt Reeves' one goes a bit harder into like, like obviously part of that's like he's a younger Batman, so maybe his tech isn't quite as good, but like he uses a wingsuit, he doesn't even have a like gliding wings. But like you kind of just take that like I don't think Batman's gliding wings, like I mean if they work, fair enough, but like I can't imagine that being like a real thing, right? Like.
Yeah, but they imagine it. It's more like
but
gliding. Right?
You buy it in the film, right? You never sitting there going, "Oh, these wings don't work on Batman."
Yeah,
you just buy it, like yeah.
But it's because they set. That's where the first film comes into play, where they do set all that stuff up and make it make sense and stuff like that. Even the it's not. I don't. They've never called it the Batmobile, but like the Tumbler. Is that what they call it? The Tumbler.
Yeah.
That's great as well.
Low key, my favourite one.
I like it so much because it's so different than the other ones.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's
just like a fast tank.
Exactly.
The other thing is as well, I'd be hard pressed to find a scene where I was like, oh yeah, like that effect doesn't look quite right. Like everything works. And everything's like weighty as well, where like explosions feel like explosions. They feel like
It's
actual
probably because they are as well.
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Like obviously the big one is like
Man's
the truck
recreating
flip,
a
right?
nuke. He's not gonna settle for CGI explosions.
Yeah. True, true. But you know, what I mean, like even when the tumbler's like, cause is it this one where, or is it the first film where like the tumbler's like on a roof and like just like jumps through
I think
like
that's the
a
third
floor
one.
of a
I think it's the
building?
third one.
Third one. That's what I mean. It's like it, if you had given this to someone else, it probably would have looked goofy.
Well, but mate, there's a scene in
But
this one where they flip the truck, mind, and that's real.
well,
That's a real
yeah,
life stunt.
well, yeah.
It's like,
Well, that's the thing. I don't think you need to go as
sometimes
big as that though
care.
to prove the like. Obviously, that's like the spectacle one, but even like some of the smaller stuff where it's just like
Yeah.
Batman using the grappling hook,
Yeah.
it just looks like fantastic. It's never like, especially in the older ones. I guess you get the campy ones, but like you could easily do like Batman's grapple hook and it have be look bad in like even a modern film.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think probably. So what's your? So did you say your favorite scene already, or did you
Favorite
say
scene was
another favorite?
interrogation scene. But
Right. Yeah.
I do like the moments when Joker just completely outsmarts
I think
Batman.
mine's is probably the scene right after that where he like lets slip on purpose that Harvey's in one place and Rachel's in the other, and he's like,
Yeah.
go save whichever one, and he knows like obviously he tells the wrong one.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
And then you get Broody Batman
Because
for like a scene as well.
wants Harvey to live, because the whole point is he wants to try and convert him to prove.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
like because like Bruce goes to the wrong one
Yeah.
as well, and like he goes and he's like, "Why are you here?" And it's like, "Go get it!" It's so great. And then she actually, because I think the thing wasn't is when I remember being, I wasn't that fond of it as a kid because I think it was a bit too dark for me as like an 8-year-old or whatever. But like I remember watching it when I was older and being like, they're like, I knew they killed Rachel, but I was like, they're not gonna kill Rachel. Like they can't do that. It's his
She's the
love
main
interest.
love interest.
They've got a whole other movie to go, and then it's just like, poof, gone.
Yeah.
Like, all right,
Yeah.
sweet.
And keep in mind, she wasn't Rachel in the first film. She was recast in this film, and I think she does it 10 times better.
What's her name? It's Gyllenhaal, right?
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, yeah.
Yeah.
I must say, I think for me, my favorite scenes when you see Harvey in the hospital. I really, really like that scene.
Especially when he interacts with Joker as well, because he doesn't say a line. He doesn't say anything. That is just mannerisms are all like it's just perfect. Like I said, like if Joker wasn't in the film, I think he would have been an absolute highlight. Which he already is,
Absolutely.
but he's kind of overshadowed by it.
I don't know if this is like, this seems low to me, but what do you think the budget for this film is?
I don't know. I'm not good with budgets.
Yeah, it's not good ranges. I'd guess maybe like 50 million or something, maybe.
50?
I don't know if that's
Right.
really low.
Well-
That's what I mean.
Well, because like in like Pirates of the Caribbean films, like they have like $300 million budgets or something crazy like that.
What was it?
And like Avengers and that, they're all like 200 plus million.
Yeah.
This one was 185 million.
Oh.
And this, for an 185 million, I think this film looks like a lot better than
Yeah.
150. I think the third one's like 250 to 300.
Right.
Oh damn.
I think, or 230. But yeah, but I think for that budget, I think this film looks better than. I mean, obviously 185 is a shit ton of money, but like, I think it looks better than that category of kind of.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But yeah, if I want to wrap up points, I guess I want to mention that I did watch this film when I was. We would have been 8, right? 8 at the time.
Yeah.
Funny story. The first time I did watch it is, I know we were 8, but I had a little girlfriend at the time, and we're over at her house, and she was able to like get a copy of it. It was still in cinemas at the time. She got a copy of it, and it was the first time. Like I was like all over this girl, but. Bro, I never gave her any attention during this film. This is the first time I was like, "Holy crap, this is a good film!" I did not even look at it. I was so obsessed. Yeah. So it's always kind of stuck with me. It was kind of the first good film that I watched as a child.
For some context on the last point as well,
Yeah.
for 185 million right, for Dark Knight. Spider-Man 3, which came out the year before, was 258 million.
Oh,
For that, that's a lot more like CGI and stuff, though. I would guess, for like Sandman and
I guess, but
all
like
that.
flipping a truck's not cheap either. Like,
Well, yeah, exactly, exactly.
but like Harry Potter, and the Half-Blood Prince is 250 million.
Yeah,
Like, these are expensive films, and they don't look anywhere near as good as The Dark Knight.
I guess it comes into as well, like, I don't want to say CGI all the time, but like, I guess like have more aspects of
and the cast as well.
Well, yeah, I guess part of the intrigue for CGI is supposed to be that it is kind of cheaper and easier, right? But like,
yeah, yeah,
um,
exactly.
but I think it might also help where you have like Jon Favreau's expertise comes into The Mandalorian and how they film that.
Mm.
I think maybe also the way Nolan films his films could maybe help the budget, where he knows what he's doing with these type of films. So had someone else been given the reins with that budget, they might have gone over. But because he's used to filming that way, that it looks better than it would normally do for that budget because he has the expertise of doing things like that in previous films.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
Lovely.
any last points on
I think that's
Dark Knight?
that's me. I think I got
You could,
my.
I mean, you could rattle off a few honourable
I'll
mentions if
rattle
you
them. I
wanted
won't
to.
go into them, but I'll just kind of list a couple just to get them out there. But I'm sure we'll talk about them in the future. 2 seconds. I think they're here. Yeah, I had Whiplash was up there because I just love the idea of the simple story of like how far are you willing to go to kind of create the next, big big thing, like next musician kind of thing. I love that.
Would it be like Prodigy?
Prodigy, yeah. J.K. Simmons is a freaking star in that film.
That is a great film.
He's great. I also had Planet of the Apes up there. War's my favorite. The third one, personally. Marriage Story was up there just because I kind of relate to it a little bit. I thought it was told perfectly. Acting super. It's probably the best acted film in my opinion with Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. Yeah, that was up there. Fablemans just didn't make it because I was kind of with you guys, where I was like, if it's that new, I don't think it should be my top five. Maybe if I wait a couple more years and then judge it again, we'll see. But that film was really special when I first watched it. Kind of ignited a little bit more ambition and motivation to kind of write more. Back to the Future's up there again. I just think that's a perfect film. Indiana Jones, I think that's a perfect film as well. Um, the Batman that was up there. The fact that when it first came out, the fact that I even considered it as better than The Dark Knight just says a lot about that film. So I had to give that that some praise. Top Gun Maverick. When I did not expect to love that film as much as I did, but I freaking love that film. I don't even love the first one, but the second one I think is just a 10/10. Avatar: The Way of Water is a freaking class film.
Yeah,
That almost made my top five, but again, I think it's too early to.
I'm surprised I never put that on my honourable mentions myself.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah. Again, I'm sure we'll discuss Avatar more in the future. But yeah, no, yeah, those were some of mine. Again, some of them are just a bit generic, but at the end of the day,
you say that they're well loved films for a reason as
exactly.
well.
That's the point. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And to blow that theory out of the water, Robert's episode's next.
Yeah, we got some random ones here.
I'm really, yeah, I'm intrigued. This is probably going
I
this is going to be
actually,
the most interesting one. Sure.
I think I've done. I think I've done good.
How,
I think
how many of them have we both seen? Do you think?
Uh, you have. I don't think you've seen any of them.
Good news, everyone. The next episode will not be an hour and 40 minutes.
Ryan, I think Ryan's seen 3 of them. I think.
Right.
He's at least seen 2.
Do you have a list of honourable mentions as well, or
Me?
yeah?
Oh, me. Yeah.
Just scattershot, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Well, are you Are you all right to stop it there,
Yeah,
Brandon, or is
all
there anything
good.
else you'd like to say about
All
your
good. I'll be working on bloody
little top
Pixar
five?
next, so freaking that's where all my eggs are going
Yeah.
to be.
Well. Yeah. Well, so I think in the pipeline at the moment is the Flash, Transformers, Rise of the Beasts
Yeah.
weekly episode, right?
Yeah.
That'll be this
So
week.
are we doing that together?
That's up to you. If you've seen it,
Yes.
you can. If you've not, then because we're trying to
Or
upload
you
it on a
can just
certain day, but
chime in.
chime in. There's going to be spoilers. That's the
Uh,
only thing. So,
Oh yeah. Well,
I'm not.
I won't see Transformers. Don't care for that.
yeah,
But unless someone goes with me, I won't see it myself.
yeah,
Fair.
But I'll go see Flash this weekend.
sweet,
Okay. Well,
sweet. All right then.
good things to look forward to, and then Indiana Jones, and probably
Pixar
I don't
tier
know
list at some point.
Pixar. Yeah,
Probably
very
within
good.
I don't know.
That's going to be a long episode.
I mean, we're not going in depth for those though. We're just going to quickly get our points across.
I don't think we have a choice, mate.
Yeah, it's going to be a long
I
episode.
don't.
It's going to be long.
Yeah. Anyway, well, you want to round it out, Brandon? It's your episode, or should I
Take the reins, mate. Take the reins.
take the reins? Well, that is Brandon's top 5 films of all time. Some real bangers and some real spicy ones there.
Mm.
Again, don't like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Um,
What's the point?
I don't even know if you can on Spotify. I guess this is on YouTube as well, right? Anyway,
Yeah,
that's his episode. Expect so that's part 2 of 3 done.
that's right.
It's I'm again surprised at how long this has taken. That's a good thing though. I was really worried that we're going to be too short. But yeah, so hopefully that gives you a little gist of Brandon's
Other stuff.
movie tastes, views, etc., etc. And yeah, part 2 of 3 done. Expect part 3 of 3 momentarily.
Awesome.
That's it.